To what extent will the arguments tomorrow, and more specifically, the remarks that we hear from the justices themselves, give us a sense of how they may rule?
Oh, I think we're going to get a good idea tomorrow based on questions and what they say during that argument, where this is all going. I must say, I really don't see why the Supreme Court even bothered to take this case in the first instance. The D.C. Circuit handled it well, a 3-0 opinion. It doesn't seem to me that anyone can argue with a straight face that what Donald Trump was doing were official acts that, in effect, had to do with interfering in the election and trying to stop the peaceful transfer of power. The argument that Donald Trump seems to be making is something that could have been made back in Watergate days for Richard Nixon. Certainly, his calls, directing calls from the CIA to the FBI to stop the investigation into the Watergate burglary was undoubtedly an official act, but it was criminal. It was designed to obstruct justice. And the same way here that this was criminal. So I don't quite understand what the Supreme Court is going to do with this. It just, to me, just at its gut level, doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, Nick, I guess there's the question of why they took it up in the first place. There's also the question of how long they will take to ultimately rule. Technically, they won't need to do so until the end of June when the term's up. And by that point, if the judge in this case, Judge Tanya Chutkan, is saying you need 3 months to prepare for a trial, we're talking what, maybe late September, assuming no more delays. How consequential is the court's timing on the timing question of whether ultimately Trump will sit in another trial before the election?
The timing here is absolutely everything. It is absolutely critical in order to get this case back on track. The question is, how quickly will the Supreme Court come down with an opinion? They came down pretty quickly after they decided on the 14th Amendment issue. In fact, they actually argued that and pushed it forward a lot quicker. I think they can do it in a matter of weeks, a week or two, to get an opinion out on this. It's not very difficult. There's not much to it, but you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. This is all about timing. If he makes it through this and this doesn't get tried before the election, there's always the danger that somehow if he gets reelected, he could just pardon himself or appoint an attorney general who would dismiss the charges that are currently present.
All the while, his criminal trial is underway in New York. Nick, it's one that you have taken more seriously than some other legal minds on this broadcast. And we're going to start hearing some real testimony at this point, not just David Pecker, which has been quite compelling with his whole catch and kill scheme that they were running at the Inquirer, but we're going to hear from Stormy Daniels. We're going to hear from Michael Cohen. What are you listening for in the days ahead that will matter 6 weeks from now in the outcome of this case?
I think we started to hear it from David Pecker, and we're going to get it more tomorrow when he resumes testimony. Essentially, what he's doing is he's laying out the format here. He's setting out kind of the contours of the scheme that was set up in order to help Donald Trump in the 2016 election, including catching and killing any kind of story that threatened to undermine his election prospects in 2016. What we're going to hear from David Pecker is kind of the full outline of that story. He was present with Michael Cohen and Donald Trump when they hatched that scheme in June of 2016. He was present throughout the entire period, including the involvement with the doorman, with Karen McDougal, with Stormy Daniels. And if you look at the website now, the New York State Court has a website set up, and you can actually look at the exhibits that have gone through so far with Mr. Pecker. And you can read yesterday's testimony today. That's now on the website. And it gives you a pretty clear picture of what's going on. And by the time it's Michael Cohen's turn to testify, the jury is going to be totally acclimated to what happened, and his credibility is almost going to be sealed by the fact of what David Pecker says over the next day or so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nick, obviously there is much to keep an eye on in the courts in regard to former President Trump, but there are a number of other issues as well. The Supreme Court today was hearing not about the former president's immunity from prosecution question, but around a question related to abortion access in Idaho, specifically in emergency cases. We have seen this issue coming up time and again, that ultimately this court, which of course issued the Dobbs ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade, is having to come back and revisit different abortion questions, as are Supreme Courts across states, including Arizona, which essentially is having its House and Senate undo what the state Supreme Court there has done. Can you just speak to the complications around the legality of abortion in America in a post-Dobbs world?
Well, what happened is when they overruled Roe versus Wade, they created a whole series of problems that are really exemplified by what happened today in the Supreme Court with this Idaho statute that basically requires a woman to be on her deathbed before she has an abortion. The federal law requires that emergency care be given to a woman who comes into a hospital. But under Idaho law, unless you're on the verge of death, you're not entitled to an abortion. And so this is not a good situation in Idaho, because already, as it came out today in the argument, 6 women have had to be flown from Idaho to other states to have abortions to save their lives. So in effect, what this Idaho law is requiring is that people remain in Idaho, be as sick as possible until they're nearly dead, and then they're required to an abortion, which is ridiculous. And in Arizona, we had a similar situation today where finally the Arizona House decided to overrule that old 1865 law on abortion, which is now going to the Senate, which is also controlled by the Republicans there. So we don't know how that's going to come out yet. But the bottom line is this has created a lot of turmoil. It's not going to stop, and it's just going to snowball into a major issue for the 2024 election.